Episode 124, Donald Firesmith. Good morrow, and welcome back to the Realm. I'm author J.V. Hilliard, and today I have a special guest, a man named Donald Firesmith. I met him at a library and book-selling convention, and what attracted me to his table was not the fact that he had three different types of books on the table, but the guy was making magic wands. So if you're a fan of speculative fiction and you also would love to have a creative wand made just for you, check out my interview with Don next. Donald Firesmith, welcome to the Realm. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
For those of you who don't know Don, he and I had a chance to meet a few weeks back at a local library where there was a group of local authors here in Pittsburgh selling books, and I had a chance to see some of his work. So I invited him here on the Realm today. Don, what I found interesting about you is you're an author that writes in multiple genres. I know that you write in paranormal. I know you write in sci-fi and fantasy. I mean, do you have a favorite?
Probably science fiction, just because that was my first true love back when I was a teenager. But any kind of speculative fiction, whether it's science fiction, fantasy, paranormal, ghost stories, you name it. I like them all.
So you use the term speculative fiction. I hear that a lot. Can you explain to our viewers who may not know what that means, what speculative fiction is versus other forms?
Well, speculative fiction really requires two things. There's sort of the normal world where everything is the way it normally is. And then there's the speculative part, and that's really where the fantasy or the science fiction comes in. For example, it could be in a parallel world, or it could be in the past or in the future, or with different technologies. And I'm really sort of an author of the hard science fiction, so the hard part. So I put a lot of work in making the real parts real, because I think it makes a lot easier for people to suspend their disbelief when they get to the speculative parts.
Yeah, that's well said. I do that with my fantasy writing too, but I'm one of those authors that has a tendency to stay in my lane. I write fantasy. It could be epic. It could be, sword and sorcery. It could be young adult. You've chosen to be in multiple lanes. Have you found that to be good for business and or how do you keep fans of varying genres? How do you keep pulling them into your books, even if it's not in their sci-fi lane or in their paranormal lane?
Well, I hope that they at least give it a try. I write not to make a living. I don't write just to put out books as a job. I write because that's what I want to do. I retired from, being a software and systems engineer for 40 years so that I could devote myself to writing what I want to write. So in some sense, I write for myself. It's just really nice when I get the awards and everyone else gives me nice reviews.
Well, speaking of your awards, when I was doing my research on you, I saw that you are a winner of many, many awards. Do you have a favorite, and why is that your favorite?
If I had to pick one, I guess the Purple Dragonfly Book Award. That's done by a British group. They concentrate on children's works. And then they, in fact, expanded out. And then I got another award from them later on in the adult category, which they added.
Speaking of award-winning books, when I picked up your first novel, it was the Hellholes series. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that series and where it is and where it's going?
Okay. It all started in 2014 when some Siberians notified some Russian scientists that there were these huge holes in northern Siberia. I mean, huge. And it made no sense because the ground's frozen rock solid with permafrost for the last 14,000 years. That is really bizarre and strange and cool. And then I got the idea, what if instead of three holes, there were literally hundreds of them? What if instead of this one peninsula in northern Siberia, they were around the entire Arctic Circle? And what if instead of happening at some time, they all appeared overnight? And so that was the genesis. A lot of my science fiction is like that, where I'll read something science-y and go, I can take that and I can take it another step further.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that authors of speculative fiction like you and me often find inspiration in real life stuff that you then can make into some sort of fantastical story. But I also noticed, speaking of hellholes, that you've optioned the books potentially for a movie. Is that on track, or is that
Well,
in process, or where? Tell us a little bit about that. That sounds
okay.
really exciting.
Yeah, I had a couple Hollywood producers that were intrigued and wanted to make it into a major motion picture. For about 6 months there, it was very, very exciting. But there's only so many movies that can be made a year. So they never were able to sell it. It was really fun. It was really exciting. I'd really love to see my name up on the big screen, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's the dream of many authors. So good luck with that moving forward. But you did mention other things that you're involved in. And what I found was interesting and learning a little bit more about you is you have Magical Wand Press, and you called it sort of a micro publishing company. Can you explain what that is and what you're doing to advance your own work through it?
Yeah, the first 8 books that I wrote in software and systems engineering, I went with traditional publishers. And when I decided to start writing fiction again, that's when I decided I really needed the creative control that comes with being an indie author. Then I figured, well, I have lots of books. Coming up with essentially my own imprint allows me to just sort of, in some sense, brand all of my books as being into the same bucket.
And clearly you've had success over the years and have been able to make this work for you. I think that's a really cool concept, and others might want to emulate that. So what's next? I know that you're a busy guy. You've got other things in the hopper. Tell our viewers here what you've got on tap. I know you got a few things coming up.
Well, I have the Hellholes trilogy. I've also been working on a second one in this series here, The Secrets of Hawthorne House, a young adult paranormal fantasy. This is the book that actually won the most awards, and I've had lots of people wanting me to do a second one, and it's been in the back burner. So I hope to get to it eventually. And I've been just cranking out short stories like crazy. In fact, this one here, Future Dreams and Nightmares, this is my science fiction short story book. I came up with a second edition of my ghost stories, vampires, demons, things that go bump in the night, with 5 new stories added to that. So it sort of depends on what I feel like writing that day. That's another nice thing about not having a contract with, a major publishing house, is I don't have deadlines. And if I get writer's block or whatever, in one book, I can just move to another, one and work on it for a while.
That's right. That's right. We're getting to the time of the show where we jump over and do something fun. It's called our lightning round, right? So
Sure.
I'm going to throw a few questions at you that I'm going to ask you for some quick responses to. So I'm going to go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. So the first question is, on your website, you have something called fun facts. And under that fun facts category, you know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, I know where you're going.
You see there's 5 or 6 fun facts that are in there. Don't go through them all, but tell our viewers which one is your favorite.
That's a tough one. I mean, 3 of them are my favorites, but for radically different reasons. Okay, I was up at the snow line on Mount St. Helens 3 days before it blew.
By the way, that was my favorite because it's the most haunting.
Another one was in 1974. I was a student over in Germany. I wanted to go someplace I'd never, been before. So I decided I'd go to the Soviet Union. And so in 1974, at the height of the Cold War, I went to Moscow. It was called Leningrad at the time. And that was an extremely interesting and eye-opening experience. And I guess the third one will be the fun one. I tend to volunteer for fun things. And when I was in India, they had some Indian magicians, performers asking for some silly victim to come up on stage. And so, like a fool, I raised my hands, and they had me go up there, lie on the ground, with my shirt off, put a watermelon on my belly, and put a blindfold on the guy. And he danced around, stomped stomping next to my head and under my armpits for a while, and then he chopped the watermelon in two on my belly. I'm laughing and I'm trying to keep my stomach from going up and down. That was an interesting experience.
All right, second question. If you could only write in one single genre, which one would it be and why?
I think science fiction, if for no other reason, I get more science fiction ideas. So it'd be easier for me if I had to restrict myself.
All right. Do you have a favorite author, and who is it if you do?
I have two favorite authors, but for radically different reasons. My first favorite author was Isaac Asimov. In high school, I read everything that he wrote, and I loved it because I would write him, ask him questions about some of his books, and he never failed but, wrote a little postcard back to me.
Real cool.
Yeah. Then when I went to Germany, I wanted to just totally immerse myself in German and not speak any English whatsoever, because I figured I'd learn it better that way. But I felt I couldn't give up English altogether. So I decided I'd take one book with me so I could read it in English. And that was the Tolkien trilogy.
Oh, there you go. You close it and you reopen it, right?
Right.
All right. So here's my final question, and I'm going to harken back to Magical Wand, because it just jumped out at me when I was looking at your website. So of all of the magical wands in the Harry Potter books, which one is your favorite and why?
I guess what I would say, I make magic wands myself and I sell magic wands. I have a wand book where I write everything that you ever wanted to know about magic wands. And so I tend to think of a wand in terms of someone who makes them. And I think it might have been Narcissa Malfoy's wand. It just looked really, really cool.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, hey, thank you very much for being on the Realm today. We appreciate your time. Good luck with the launch of your couple of new works that are coming out here. And can you tell everybody where they can find you?
I have my own website, which is easy enough to remember, donaldfiresmith.com. And if you go to my website, every one of my books will have a whole bunch of links to every place you can go to get them.
Great. Well, again, thank you very much for coming on the Realm, and good luck. I'll see you soon at the next library event.
Sounds good.
So you know what? Looking at Don's Magic Wand collection, when I saw it, it reminded me of conventions. And speaking of conventions and selling books, my third book in the Warminster series, the Trillias Gambit, will be launched on July 10th. 2023, and in about a month's time you'll get a countdown on my social media, as well as you'll have a chance to see my new book trailer when it comes out. Take a look at some of the new stuff that's going to be in the book, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the convention trail this summer. Again, thank you very much for being here. I'm J.V. Hilliard, and may your gods go with you.